How's everybody doing? So, I did a video a little bit earlier today. Let me take these off so I don't have to glare. I did a video a little bit earlier today where I was forging horseshoe knives and horseshoe rasp, I think giant, horseshoe rasp knife planks. And now I'm going to try, I haven't done a dry run yet, so we're just going to do this. Do a horseshoe rasp tomahawk. So cut and remove the tang. Now literally I'm going to be able to break this off here. Already moved it. Cheyenne's looking for more rasps. And instead of forging the end down, we're just going to cut off what's going to come out to 3/16 to 1/4 inch. So we're going to come back in here about 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches. And going to score across, but not completely cut through. Now why? Because I want to be able to fold that back onto itself for the bit, just so that I have a high carbon center and maybe less likely of hitting one of those decarb zones with a weld. Okay, so what do we do from here? One, a little bit of eye protection, it ain't much. What I'm going to do, I cut these, left just a little bit of steel on there, so I could just break these off, but I didn't want to have to cut while I was trying to explain things. There's a couple of good pieces of high carbon steel you can save if you want, or discard it right there, that'll make you a decent striker. Got that stuff back there by the forge. The first thing I want to do, I'm actually going to go ahead and I'm going to put some oil on this because it's going to carbonize or carburize. It's going to produce carbon when it burns, and that's going to help prevent scale from forming. It's also going to give something for my flux to stick to. Now I'm coming up to temperature here, and I'm using my Atlas forge, which does get hot enough to weld in. Man, does it eat out that refractory. Go ahead and bring you guys around so you can see just a little bit better. Now, this file or rasp has been heated before, so it's got a little bit of scale on it. It's not too bad, it should be fine. What kind of oil are we going to use? I've used natural oils, I've used synthetics. I happen to have some linseed oil here that I was using for finishing my tomahawk handle. So let's put some of that on there. That seems like it might work. And then, just because we can, and we've got the opportunity for flux to stick, we're going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of borax on here on both ends. That's pretty decent. Not a whole lot, just a little bit. And you know what? Right here on this side, I am going to go ahead and put some oil on it. And a little bit of borax. So here we go. A little bit of oil right there on the rasp. And lightly sprinkle some borax. Now, some of it might stay, some of it might not. We're going to find out, but hopefully this works out pretty good. We're going into the forge right here. Now it shouldn't take too long to bring that up to a welding heat. yourself a wire brush, because you're going to want to brush before when you reflux. And I've also got a tomahawk drip that I'm going to be forming that around. The first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to wrap, or before I wrap it, I'm actually going to fold that bit over. Can you use vegetable oil? I have used canola oil, so yes. And while that's heating up, if you guys would, please subscribe to my channel. I appreciate it. Share this out. We're going to get it going. Majority of this at first is going to be done here at the anvil, and then we're going to go to the power hammer. Now some people prefer to cut the piece completely off. I figure this way it's more likely for everything to hold together, and as long as it doesn't get too cool, that bit shouldn't break off from the parent stock. Pretty good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get things ready here, and because we're going to be forge welding and we're prepping to weld, make sure you've got everything you need the way you need it. Extra gloves aren't a bad idea in this case, especially with flux splattering. My long handled brush. I just feel I get better leverage. I'm setting my brush here, and what you guys probably can't see to the side, I've got my swedge block. Let's see if we can adjust this so you guys can see just a little bit more what's going on here. My borax. I got my flux, I got my brush, I got a hammer. Some tongs would probably be ideal. That ought to work. Flux it up again. Flux a little extra in there. I'm going to brush this side. I'm going to flux it back into the forge. At this point, we're going to start forge welding. Now, one thing I could have done, I could have let the temperature come up in that forge just a little bit more, and it'd probably heat a little bit faster. I think we'll be fine. Now there's several ways that you can, sorry, I got borax floating around here. There's a couple different ways that you can gauge temperature for forge welding. One, you can use maybe a thermal probe, something like that. I'm not doing that here. You guys might have it at home, but we don't here in the shop. I'm going to judge this by watching how the flux reacts. And you'll also notice that's got a long bit. Instead of having a thin sliver of steel for the edge, this is all going to be high carbon steel. It'll be differentially hardened. How's it going? And what we're going to do by we, I mean me, because you guys are watching this. I'm going to bring that up to temperature, and I'm going to set that weld real quick. It's going to set enough that it should push the borax out, and hopefully everything sticks. That's also the idea of only cutting partially through that, rasp to fold it over. It'd be the same concept as taking a chisel and scoring a billet of Damascus or something like that to fold it up. But in this case, we're just folding the rasp. So we've got a lamination technique, and we're going to go from there. Keep in mind, I've got my wire brush with a long handle. Let me grab some gloves. Now you do not have to hit this hard to set that weld. We'll let that set just a little bit longer because I want to make sure I'm up to temp. We're not at a welding heat yet. But I'm going to brush and flux it. I'll jump the gun on that. So we're going to let that soak for just a little while. Everything's essentially put in contact with itself. Rotate it over 180 degrees just to make sure that both sides are getting heated. We'll give it just a moment. Welding heat. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it some time so that can soak. Now, while it's soaking, the flux is chemically, cleaning the surface of the steel, preventing oxidation, removing impurities, things like that. And anything in contact with another piece of metal in there should be welding to itself. does not take a lot of pressure to set a weld. And I want to demonstrate that. I want to set the weld with the hammer handle. That's going to be good enough just to get it to stick. Now I'm setting that piece deeper into the forge because I need to fold that over. I'm going to wrap the rest of that around itself. And hopefully my weld did take. If not, I'll weld it up in the process. That did pop on me, so I've got the surfaces fluxed. If you guys haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. now we've got 3 pieces, 3/16 of an inch thick together, and about 2.5 inches to 2 3/4 inches thick, or long rather, that I've got to get up to a welding heat so this will all stick together. So we're going to let that set for a moment. We're going to let the flux do its thing. If you would, please subscribe. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you how I do my rasp prep prior to welding this up. Okay? We're going to make 2 cuts and score at once. We're going to cut the tang. This one, we really don't need to trim much off this end, and then come in 2.5 to 2 3/4 inches and score, and that's on the coarse side, not the double cut. Let me knock some stuff off in the process. Thank you, Cheyenne. And then all that's required is remove the pieces that I just cut off. This is going to be the area that gets folded back. It sure doesn't look like it's long enough. Will work. Now, in this case, since I folded that bit, I'm going to work from the edge towards the eye for a specific reason. And that reason is, that's going to push the flux towards me. Before I do that, I am going to flux it again. That back into the forge. Let that come up to temperature, and then we're going to go to the power hammer. Why to the power hammer? Because it hits a lot harder than I can, and it's got more area for compression, so we're going to try to get all of that welded up at one time. So I'm going to go ahead and move my camera over here so you guys can see this. Turn that on, I want to make sure that my dies are tight. It's looking good so far. Don't want to mess this up, so I'm letting this set for a moment. Got it? Now we're back into the forge. Pretty certain that that welt took. And just to be sure, I'm going to let that soak and welding heat just a little bit longer. What I'm going for right now, I want to get my preforms welded up. It won't take much more to finish them out. So right now I'm just going to focus on the preforms. Then we'll go into actually forging them out. You can use WD-40, you can use, there's actually quite a few different types of like petroleum distillates that you can use. Kerosene, just be careful when you're doing that, guys. You do not want to have an accidental fire. That one is waiting. I expect with a hotter fire and a cleaner rasp starting with, that That should do wonders as far as prep goes. All right. My brush, flux, everything's ready. Looking pretty good. Let me go ahead and rotate it over once. Okay. And we're going to come in and forge it out. So there's our preform right there. Now let's see if we can forge it. Keep a little bit of flux on there just in case. I know I said I was just focusing on it. As far as welding up the preform, I want to forge it. Because it's fun stuff. All right. I'm going to try to avoid weld shear. Weld shear is not a fun deal. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to start forging that edge out, and then I'll taper it back in if needed. I did not do a bow tie preform. I usually don't see that necessary. So in this case, I don't think it's necessary. I could be wrong. Here we go. That's a lot of tough, thick, high carbon steel. And we're going back to the power hammer. far I'm okay with the results. Next step in the process, I'm going to drip this, and hopefully it doesn't split apart. And if it does, I will try again. Put some canola oil on this, so I'm lubing up the drip. So hopefully it'll pass through easier. Hopefully I can do this in one try. Form that eye to the drift a little more. Then we're going to go on to the second one. I'm going to normalize real quick. And then we're going to go to the next piece. Round 2 gets a better result. Alright, here we go. We're going to run this one up to preform right now. It's right about just under 40 minutes to do that one. I think it'll work just fine. I've got my brush, I've got my borax, I've got a hammer this time. I may use a hammer a little bit. And the first thing I'm going to do, I'm not going to try welding on that first fold, but I'm going to see what happens. She's coming up to temp again. This next round, I'm going to try to do a welding heat. Bubbling, it's not really dancing the way I want it to yet, but it's getting close. While that's coming up to temp, we're going to go ahead and take these other 3 and get them prepped. Cleaned up some. tip, get everything pressed together. I'm going to do a combination of hand forging and power hammer techniques. That's not going to push together again. All right. Once that's at a welding heat, we're going to use the power hammer to close that up. Probably brush and flux a few times in the meantime. And while I'm waiting on that, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to cut tangs and tips on those rasps. that's working pretty good. Once more, if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe to my channel. My preform. I can make an axe out of that easy enough. Okay, aside from drifting, we're just about there. but it's definitely going to work. That one's going to have to get wrapped around a little bit. Aside from a little bit of finishing, that's about it. Once more, thanks for joining me. Be sure to subscribe. Check us out at Forge of Memory. Axon Main Forge of Memory here in St. Elmo, Illinois, just off Interstate 70. Catch you in a few.